Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. In a dystopian version of 2017 where all natural resources are in short supply, game shows have deteriorated into the likes of Climbing for Dollars, where reality contestants try not to be mauled by a pack of hungry Rottweilers. America's most popular show is a gladiatorial event called The Running Man, where convicted criminals willingly participate in return for pardons. Stalkers like Buzzsaw hunt down the prisoners across 400 deserted blocks, but if the contestants survive, they're given new lives on a tropical island. The movie jumps straight into Police Captain Ben Richards piloting his chopper up to a riot, but all of the civilians are unarmed. He refuses to openly shoot at the crowd when ordered by command, so a fight breaks out and the rest of his team overthrow Ben's authority. They then proceed with the massacre, killing over 60 citizens before framing Richards as a rogue agent who simply disobeyed peaceful orders.
I'll be back.
They send him to a detention zone where prisoners are fitted with metal collars that explode if they try to cross beyond the borders. Ben's forced to hard labor, and after 18 months inside, the inmate Weiss memorizes the deactivation code for the security fence. He gives Ben the go-ahead to begin a fake fight with another inmate, Laughlin, which causes all of the prisoners to begin a massive riot. They attack guards who open fire shooting anything that moves, but Weiss obtains the controller and escapes the facility with the mob. He inputs the code and all of the inmates escape the detention zone, allowing some to sneak into Los Angeles before the midnight curfew. Weiss and Laughlin take Richards to meet the underground resistance leader Mick, who removes the explosive collars but is reluctant to take off Ben's. Everyone knows him as the Butcher of Bakersfield for the food riot massacre, but his new friends vouch that it's all just government propaganda. Once the collar's off, Ben doesn't stick around and the next morning jumps a truck ferrying workers into the city to go see his brother. Meanwhile, at a television station, the Running Man's host Damon is a beloved TV personality and puppet for the state. The charming persona is just a front as he acts polite to an elderly janitor's face but tells his assistant Brenda to have him fired. He consults with his talent agent Tony on any potential contestants by searching through the Justice Department database on criminals. Dissatisfied with the lack of any physical prowess, he comes across the video of Richards escaping the prison and decides that he's their man. Only a few blocks from the TV station, Ben visits his brother's apartment in the posh neighborhood, but it now belongs to Amber. She follows a government workout program featuring the 10-time stalker champion Captain Freedom. He's interrupted by false reports about Ben, and when Amber reclines, she finds herself the hostage of the Butcher of Bakersfield. Looking for his brother, Amber has no clue where he is and just says that the last tenant was taken away for re-education. She tries to get away, but Richards restrains her and devises a plan to escape to Hawaii using Amber's travel pass. He finds a box filled with items on the government's censored list, but it's something everyone does to acquire good music. Ben tells Amber to get dressed and attempts to make it through security at the airport, warning the hostage that he could break her neck like a chicken. As they walk through a crowded corridor, Amber notices a police officer and pulls away from Ben, shouting his name to everyone. The police chase Richards out onto a runway where he's attempting to get away but is captured in a heavy-weighted net as the onlookers enjoy the show. He's thrown into a holding cell where he's confronted by Killian and is offered to have Ben in the next episode of the Running Man event. When he refuses, he's shown a video of Laughlin and Weiss and told that if he doesn't volunteer for the competition, the two of them will be fed to stalkers as well. He agrees to participate, so they inject the latest contestant to track his vitals before throwing Ben into his cell to be gassed in preparation for the show. On the night of the event, crowds assemble at various spots around the city in both classes of neighborhoods to watch the pre-show dancers. Amber clues on to the government propaganda when she sees a report about Ben shooting 2 guards at the airport, but she knows that's not true. When he's collected from his cell and brought through the studio, Ben passes Amber where she works as a writer for the television station. Richards gets escorted to the stage where he signs a waiver and then with his pen nails the contract to the court-appointed agent's back. Killian comes on stage and introduces Ben with a doctored video of him slaughtering the innocent civilians, making the crowd think that he's a monster. They dress Ben in a goofy-looking outfit and place him into a sled where he's shot through a tube towards the first game zone. Going back on his deal, Killian also sends his friends into the zone anyway, where their sleds are all violently halted by the barriers at the first leg. They're then thrown into the city ruins where the three begin running until reaching a large indoor arena with freezing cold temperatures. The first gladiator, Professor Subzero, wields a high-tech hockey stick and charges over the men, revealing the room to be a labyrinth atop an ice rink. Subzero slides Weiss across the ice like a human hockey puck, trapping him inside a goal before trying to slice Laughlin up with his stick. Richards jumps on his back and throws him to a side before breaking off a piece of the razor wire from the fence and using it to slice Subzero's throat. As the whole crowd mourn for a fallen stalker, the survivors mock Killian over a camera before freeing Weiss from the cage. They continue through the course until Weiss says that he suspects the Uplink Center for State Propaganda is hidden somewhere in the game zone. He says that it has been a priority for the resistance to locate for the past 5 years, but Ben's only concern is keeping himself alive. To cheer the crowd up, Killian sends in a tag team of gladiators working together, including the previous year's champion Buzzsaw with the record for most kills, and the flamboyant Dynamo, who sings opera for whatever reason and is able to discharge electricity from his colorful outfit. Meanwhile, Amber's breaking into the control room where she pockets raw footage of the Bakersfield massacre but is caught before escaping. Killian then throws her into the Running Man as a special guest with the fabricated story about having a secret affair with Richards. She's placed on the sled and launched through the tubes where Buzzsaw and Dynamo wait to tail her through the course until she catches up with Ben and the others. The stalkers then attack and the 4 contestants are broken into 2 groups, with Weiss and Amber being pursued by Dynamo in his buggy. Ben and Laughlin escape into a warehouse where Buzzsaw set a trap, so Laughlin shoves Richards to the side and takes a chainsaw to the chest. Buzz then doubles back, lassoing Ben and dragging him around the warehouse until he manages to lock the cable off, causing Buzzsaw to be thrown from his bike. The fans groan or cheer according to how the game's playing out, while the still-living Buzzsaw picks up his chainsaw and goes at it with Ben. The two have a show of muscle where Richards lowers the chainsaw between the stalker's legs and yanks it upwards, killing him and silencing the crowds. Elsewhere, Weiss and Amber find an interface to the uplink center where the rebel gets to work decoding the security encryption. He succeeds and tells Amber the code that will allow them access to the propaganda machine, but Dynamo finds them and kills Weiss with a blast of electricity. Amber survives but is dragged out onto the street where Richards hears her screaming and interrupts Dynamo before he kills her. The singer then targets Ben in his dune buggy but is led up a mound of debris where the vehicle overturns, trapping the gladiator inside. Ben disappoints the bloodthirsty audience once again when he refuses to kill the helpless man and instead just runs away with Amber. Going back to Laughlin, he pleads with Richards to give the uplink codes to Mick as he has a broadcast center in the final leg of the game zone. Laughlin dies and a nearby monitor turns on with Killian congratulating Richards for the highest ratings a running man has ever received. The host offers Ben a contract to become a gladiator on his show, but the runner refuses the generous offer by smashing the camera to pieces. He's becoming so famous that even the fans claim that Ben is going to defeat all of his opponents, and the bookies begin putting odds on him to survive the show. The next gladiator's the flamethrowing wielding Fireball, who basks in the cheers of the crowd, which makes Captain Freedom nostalgically gaze at a poster of himself. Fireball pilots a jetpack to fly out into the course and chases Ben and Amber underground through tunnels towards the final game zone. Crossing barrels of fuel, Amber runs ahead while Richard stays behind to throw the barrels at Fireball, causing them to ignite and set the room on fire. Protected by his suit, the gladiator walks through the flames, so Ben grabs a flare from a nearby box and runs away to search for Amber. She's trying to hide but comes across the corpses of the previous Running Men champions and releases a scream, alerting Fireball to the location. He turns his flamethrower on her, but Ben pulls out the gas line and gets Amber out of there before throwing the flare at Fireball's feet and blowing him to pieces. The people in the studio are devastated, but the ones watching from the slums have begun chanting Ben's name and winning big with their bets. Running out of stalkers, they order Captain Freedom to get in there and put on some microwave-looking costume, but it makes him furious. He says that in his day as a champion stalker they adhered to a strict gladiatorial code of honor where he would kill runners with his bare hands. The contestants reach the final leg of the Running Man, where they're found by Mick and brought to his secret broadcast center beneath the race. They tell them about having the code to hack into the government station when Killian comes on stage and announces the final event. Unable to find Ben and Amber, he's had his team CGI the runners' faces onto randoms, a woman of which Freedom breaks the neck of. He then throws her corpse into razor wires and fights what looks like Ben, but when Freedom tackles him onto spikes, the fans let out a sigh of disappointment. He's shown to be just a random prisoner from the studio, where Killian congratulates his team on a job well done and plans to wrap it up when the entertainment finish. The real Running Man and woman lead a small team of resistance fighters into the studio to get revenge on Killian and reveal the truth to the public. Richards bursts onto the set, shocking everybody that he's still alive, while Amber watches the door but is attacked by Dynamo. She hits him in the balls, but the pantsless man climbs on top of her, so Amber shoots the overhead sprinklers, electrocuting the stalker in his suit. Meanwhile, Mick successfully hijacks the network and broadcasts the raw footage revealing Killian's a liar and the previous winners were killed. He plays the unedited footage of the Bakersfield massacre, showing that the Running Man was framed and their leaders are lying to them. Suddenly the guards open fire, shooting both rebels and civilians alike, so Ben fires back while trying to help everyone out of the studio. When the last of the guards are dead, Ben confronts Killian, who begins to act smug when his personal security Sven arrives. He's always hated his boss anyway, so he gives Richards the go-ahead to kill him and walks away to find another job. After a pointless speech about how Americans need their violence, all of which Ben ignores, he straps Killian into the sled and launches it through the tube. With the barriers now gone, the sled shoots out of the other end straight into a billboard, killing the host of television's most popular show.
Well, that hit the spot.
People of both classes cheer for his demise, whether it's because they believe the truth or just because they love the carnage. Amber finds Ben on stage and the two have a victory kiss while the cameras are still broadcasting their moment to the world. The fans cheer while the large propaganda screen in the slum finally goes dark for the first time in ages. And the movie ends.
Here's Subzero! Now, Lane Zero!